on the outskirts of a forgotten town. In a weathered sewing shop called Stitch in Time, there hung a peculiar tapestry. It was massive, spanning the length of an entire wall, its threads so intricate they seemed almost alive. No one knew who had woven it, and the elderly shopkeeper, Mrs. Hemsley, claimed it had been there when she first bought the shop decades ago. The tapestry depicted a serene countryside, a quiet village surrounded by hills, a shimmering river, and a deep, shadowy forest in the background. But it wasn't the image itself that made the tapestry remarkable. It was how it seemed to change. Subtle details shifted when no one was looking. The river's flow would alter course. Birds perched on branches would vanish. Chimneys in the village puffed smoke at different times. People whispered about the tapestry's uncanny nature, and some swore they saw figures walking along its cobbled roads. Still, most dismissed these as mere flights of imagination. That is, until Oliver, a curious young man with an eye for detail, decided to stay after hours to study the mysterious artifact. As the clock struck midnight, the shop seemed to breathe. Shadows stretched unnaturally, and the air grew thick with an almost electric charge. Oliver's gaze remained fixed on the tapestry as its threads began to shimmer, unravel, and reweave themselves in real time. A figure emerged, a lone man in a tattered cloak, trudging through the village. Oliver leaned closer, feeling an odd connection to the figure. His heart raced as he recognized the man's face. It was his own. The figure looked directly at Oliver, raising a hand as if in warning. At that moment, the shop's front door slammed shut, and the lights flickered out. Oliver stumbled backward, his breath quick and shallow, and the tapestry began to glow faintly, illuminating the shop in a ghostly light. A voice, soft and melodic, whispered through the air. "Every thread tells a story. Yours is unfinished." Oliver tried to leave, but the shop refused to release him. The walls rippled like fabric, and the tapestry expanded, engulfing him in its folds. He found himself standing in the village he had just seen, surrounded by silent, watchful faces. "This isn't real," he muttered, backing away. But the ground beneath his feet was solid, and the cold wind biting at his skin was all too real. An elderly villager approached him, her face a mirror of Mrs. Hemsley's. "You shouldn't have come," she said gravely. "The tapestry is a map of fates, and meddling with it invites its threads to tangle." Oliver demanded to know how to return to his world, but the villagers only shook their heads. The tapestry was alive, they explained, feeding on the choices and actions of those who entered it. Every decision rewove the threads, altering both the tapestry's depiction and the lives it encompassed. Days turned into weeks as Oliver searched for an escape. Each path led him deeper into the tapestry's mysteries. He discovered that the forest's shadows hid other trapped souls, figures who had meddled with the tapestry and been consumed by it. Their whispers echoed in his ears, warning him to tread carefully. One night, Oliver stood by the river, staring at his reflection. The face looking back was older, wary, and unfamiliar. Panic gripped him as he realized time in the tapestry flowed differently. He was becoming part of it, another thread in its endless weave. Desperate, he climbed to the top of the highest hill, where a single golden thread dangled from the sky. It pulsed with light, radiating warmth and hope. The villagers had spoken of this thread, the only way to sever one's connection to the tapestry. But the cost was steep. Pulling the thread would unravel the tapestry entirely, destroying its world and erasing the lives within it. Oliver hesitated. torn between his survival and the countless lives tied to the tapestry's existence. As the dawn broke, Oliver made his choice. With trembling hands, he grasped the thread and pulled. The sky shattered like glass, and the world dissolved into a cascade of shimmering fibers. Oliver woke in the sewing shop. The tapestry gone, replaced by an empty wall. Mrs. Hemsley stood nearby, her expression unreadable. "You've freed yourself," she said. "But at what cost?" Quote, "Years later, Oliver would find himself unable to sleep, haunted by dreams of a village that no longer existed, its faces fading like forgotten memories. And in the quietest moments, he swore he could still hear the tapestry's threads whispering his name.